allowing them to make big combo turns. Other than that, nothing too much.
If I can't have the secret box, you can't have it either. Both players unavailable to use their A-Spec during this game, as well as one of those Kirlia, the top prizes, can be annoying for that technical machine evolution.
Yeah, when you're drawing 8 cards off of Lilies, sometimes you draw that Kirlia, and then with one in the prizes, you can't use that evolution to get those Kirlias quickly, so we'll see if that comes up, or if Makani's able to set up normally, and then Cerys. As we mentioned, Grimsnarl uses that secret box a lot, but as we get into it, looks like Makani is going first.
Going first, no secret box at the disposal. Does have an Ultra Ball in the hand, it seems. It's just considering what to discard. It will be the Psychic Energy and Rare Candy hitting the discard pile as well. Makani's going to get the bad news that that other Rare Candy is actually in the prize card, so no access to that card as it seems for the time being. Yeah, or no, excuse me, that's the wrong prize cards. Rare Candy over on Cerys' prizes, so it seems that the Rare Candy will be available, but still losing that resource on turn 1 can be a bit annoying.
And with that second Kirlia prize, being down that Kirlia in the prizes, the Rare Candy in the discard means it's going to be hard for Makani to reestablish those Gardevoirs after the first one potentially goes down to a boss's orders, or maybe even the Iron Bundle if Makani's board is a little too tight. This Iron Bundle is a really interesting tech in Grimsnarl that is really good with the Pokepads, easy to search out, easy to recover with Night Stretchers, and can put your opponent into weird spots where they have to make a decision of what do they promote and give you extra damage or even a knockout on.
Yeah, really strong in the mirror.
Yeah.
Not as strong here in this matchup. It can still be annoying to move some Pokemon out of the active with that Scream Tail as well. Sort of talk us through, Piper, a little bit how Scream Tail can be impactful in this matchup.
Yeah, as we saw yesterday, Scream Tail is used a lot to knock out those Monkey Dories on the bench without giving the Grimsnarl damage to knock out that Scream Tail in return, especially when it's on the bench with the 30 damage from Shadow Bullet. But this Iron Bundle can force it there, so you don't need the boss. So if there is too much damage on the Scream Tail and Cerys wants to save those bosses for later, can then force the Scream Tail to the bench and take a 2-prize turn. Because Gardevoir tends to want to boss check Grimsnarl in these games, and that means off of Ionos or any kind of disruption, force the Grimsnarl to find a boss. And Makani here getting the Mew really aggressive, kind of showing Cerys that his hand is not amazing, really reliant on this restart, and discards a Gardevoir and Night Stretcher, 2 really big resources.
Yeah, and starting off, Cerys finds the Arven. Will, I'm sure, be looking for that secret box, but with it not being available, what will the choice be instead? Air Balloon immediately brought to the top of the deck. Does mean something like a Buddy Buddy Poffin could find Badoo and start Itchy Pollen early on, and that does seem to be what the choice is going to have to be here for Cerys.
Yeah, you see Makani go for this Mew super aggressively, and if you Itchy Pollen, Makani can't play those items and thin his hand down to restart for more cards. So a really good way to try and lock him out of this game with such a weak start. And it kind of shows how Gardy, ever since Refinement rotated, has really struggled with item lock. We see it against Poltnor, and now against Grimsnarl, as it shifts to the double Badoo builds, really leaning into that item lock. It's a really solid strategy. You kind of scam your opponent out of game sometimes, but you really capitalize with the Frostlasses, and there's even decks built around it. Frostlass Monkey Dory with the really heavy Badoo, heavy Bravery Charm. But here we do have the Grimsnarl option, which gives us a nice way to knock out that Gardevoir EX.
And a big choice here for Cerys. The hand is lacking, it seems. Not a lot going on, and is now debating whether or not to go for this Tatsugiri to try and attract customers to find some supporter cards or to slow things down with an Itchy Pollen. Cerys has information that Makani did find a Kirlia on that previous turn.
Yeah, really showing the weakness of prizing that secret box. If Cerys had a secret box here, could have Arven for that, use the secret box to get another supporter for the following turn, as well as that Buddy Buddy Poffin to set up the board, and use Itchy Pollen. But now, just going for that retreat, playing it safe, this Iron Bundle having the Air Balloon feels not great. I mean, Iron Bundle discards itself along with all cards attached. Big attract customers, finds a Lily's Determination for next turn, though.
It's an absolutely big find. Will mean that Cerys can continue to cycle through the deck. Monkey Dory comes down as well. It is a pass over to the turn. So immediately Makani evolving this Ralts into a Kirlia, Dark Energy, and a big 3 cards off restart. Can Makani find a supporter card, and does find Lily's Determination, a big draw here.
Yeah, Makani here could look for something like the Technical Machine Evolution to get immediately into a Gardevoir, or hold off on that. Just trying to establish the board as strong as possible. It did already attach to the Monkey Dory, though. But having that Monkey Dory is really big, already showing an advantage because Cerys did not have an energy this turn, so had to use that Air Balloon on the Iron Bundle and didn't get an energy onto that Monkey Dory. Meaning Makani here, despite going first and having to bench that Mew, actually starting to gain some advantage.
So 8 cards drawn here from the Lily's Determination. Still looking potentially for ways to find Pokemon for the following turn. Does find Earthen Vessel, Psychic Energy, and with this essential free turn of items, it's got to be feeling good to at least get some more energies in the discard pile.
And notably, I saw Gardevoir EX for the next turn, the second one. The first one was discarded on the first turn with a Night Stretcher and 2 Ultra Balls gone already. Could have been a difficult piece to find, but Makani already having it lined up. Benches a Screamtail and passes over to Cerys.
He wants to make sure Artisan can potentially find that second Monkey Dory on the following turn, so preemptively benching Screamtail, understanding its value in this matchup, and immediately we see energy committed to this Tatsugiri.
Yeah, and a Bravery Charm on this Monkey Dory, giving it a bit extra HP against the Roaring Scream threat. As we mentioned, Cerys having that Iron Bundle can force the Screamtail onto the bench really easily for Shadow Bullet damage, and if this Monkey Dory has more HP, the Screamtail needs to take more damage, and makes it so that it could get knocked out from Adrenabrain, Shadow Bullet, all these pesky tricks that Grimsnarl has.
So 8 cards in exchange for Cerys for playing that Lily's Determination. Does find the Spike Myth Gym, so at minimum could see Morgrim come into play.
Yeah, and a lot of supporters for the next turn, Iono, Boss's Orders, and the Tatsugiri attract customers to try to find another option like Arven or Lily's Determination. Here, using that Spike Myth Thinning before using attract customers, raise the odds of a specific supporter.
Here, I don't know if you can actually grab Morgrim with Screamtail as a threat on the bench.
Yeah. Knocking out that Morgrim means that there's no threat of Grimsnarl without the candy, but a lot of lists have been going to only 1 rare candy lately, which I'm sure Makani is aware of. So understanding that knocking out the Morgrim, knocking out those Pokemon is really good to hinder Cerys' setup and attacks.
You can't go too thin here. That Iron Bundle is on the bench, kind of eating up a space right now. It could, of course, move itself, put itself into the discard pile to open a bench space up, but it's instead actually gonna be the Morgrim. So going solo here with this Morgrim, how do you feel about this play, Piper?
If Cerys has something like the Budu, maybe hoping that Makani isn't able to find a Gardevoir, because as mentioned, there's 2 Ultra Balls and the Gardevoir discarded, and with Item Lock means can't Ultra Ball under Itchy Pollen. But we do know that Makani already has the Gardevoir, so...
Just a pass over. Gardevoir immediately found Psychic Energy to the active spot, and this will actually guarantee a KO onto Morgrim this turn if there's just another way to discard a Psychic Energy. Or there's 2 in the bin that's actually already there. You can use Psychic Embrace 3 times and get this knockout, and all of a sudden, Makani taking a huge lead in this first game.
Yeah, Cerys with no great response to Screamtail, no damage on the board from Frostlass to Adrenabrain and then Itchy Pollen, no other Morgrims. Here, putting in energy on that Gardevoir, preventing Cerys from doing something like Counter Catcher Itchy Pollen and trap that Gardevoir for a turn, using the Adrenabrain, and then Screamtail, Roaring Scream, knock out that Morgrim.
Yeah, and the 80 damage next turn from a Snipe is perfect. It can KO the next Impidimp that comes down into play. So Makani taking an absolutely huge lead here in this game. Gardevoir established, no Impidimp down, and Cerys is just scratching her head thinking, what can I do in this spot?
Yeah, and Cerys with that 3rd Impidimp prize and that 1 rare candy means it's going to be really hard for her to ever establish that Grimsnarl does have a Night Stretcher in hand, but without the rare candy, an Impidimp's going to get knocked out this turn by Makani. Then even if she's able to evolve the Impidimp into a Morgrim, it's just going to get Screamtailed again. There's no threat here from Cerys, and it's really showing the strength of Roaring Scream in this matchup.
Yeah, would have to essentially hope that Makani cannot discard a single Psychic Energy. That's really the only saving grace, since that Morgrim does have 100 HP, so it would survive the current Roaring Scream attack.
Yeah, but having an extra turn to do it and not being item locked here, Cerys has to use the Iron Bundle to bench a Budu and item lock to prevent the Ultra Ball or Earthen Vessels, but still a lot of time for Makani to try and set up this energy on a Monkey Dory is found, but with no damage, no Frostlass.
And you can't even item lock, since you would actually put the Screamtail up to 50, so it would just be able to KO the Morgrim by itself. So we'll see attract customers still playing the turn out, but this is the question here at 10-1-1. Do you ever just pick up your cards and go next? It just feels like such a hard hill to climb back from.
Yeah, the matchup's definitely a little bit in Grimsnarl's favor, and when you're at 10-1-1, you're really just looking for that 11th win. That tie there isn't super relevant, so you just want to have as much time as possible to try to win the set.
We'll see Boss's Orders get grabbed. We'll see the Spike Myth Gym be used too, but Makani's going to get to take a free prize next turn, another prize the turn after that, and it just seems like such a hard hill to climb, but we got to put ourselves in Cerys' shoes. She's been in this spot before, a very experienced player. She's going to play to her outs and see what she can do in this game.
Makani here is getting a bit of a hint that Cerys prize that third Impidimp, having to use Night Stretcher again, Impidimp, and then using Spike Myth to get a Morgrem this turn means that we'll probably Roaring Scream that Impidimp, and starting with an Arven, likely getting something like an Earthen Vessel, Ultra Ball, ways to get those extra energies in the discard for next turn to be able to knock out a Morgrem.
Yeah, and immediately finding Earthen Vessel. I believe Ultra Ball was actually the prize card taken on the previous turn, so that will guarantee those energies get discarded, and it was.
Yeah, can even get a second Monkey Dory into play if Makani so chooses. Earthen Vessel for a Dark Energy, Ultra Ball away, the other Psychic Energy from the Vessel, and get a Monkey Dory from that. Really just such a strong board for Makani here.
Yeah, just feels like it's almost curtains at this point, and the game is, barely begun. We're on essentially the third turn of the game. Spike Myth gets discarded, energy's brought in, Dark comes down, and if there's a way to discard this energy, or even just gonna hold on to it for now, we'll just use, the Roaring Scream takes the KO. Iono found off the prizes, and if this gets knocked out here, it's almost all curtains.
Yeah, and the Screamtail just taking knockout after knockout, Cerys not having a threat, shows kind of the weakness of going to one Rare Candy and Grimsnarl. I've seen lists from anywhere 1 to 3, but just super rotting to get an Impidimp back.
And I think this is the plan here. Usually Punk Up is the ability of choice to get evolved. Is there a world here where Cerys can just go straight into that? Is instead gonna just try and get double Morgrem down in this spot to try and save that Punk Up ability for later. There's always a world where you can manually power up that Grimsnarl to play around it, but Cerys already using 2 of those recovery cards is just left with what? The 1 Night Stretcher remaining in the deck now, it seems.
Yeah, 1 recovery card, and Makani's up 3 prize cards with a Screamtail. Cerys having no extra damage in play means it's going to be hard for her to knock out this Gardevoir and the Screamtail, meaning Makani's always going to have a threat on that board. And this spot's just getting more and more awkward each turn that goes by without a big attack.
Let's take a look and see how the rest of this game plays out. It will be the Tatsugiri using that attract customers. Not sure it found anything. We'll see the Morgrem get evolved with the Technical Machine evolution, so at least threatening a Grimsnarl on the following turn. And the other advantage here is besides this Tatsugiri, there is nothing that can be KO'd currently with this Roaring Scream attack.
Yeah, we do know Makani does have that Psychic Energy from the Earthen Vessel last turn. May have found a way to discard it, such as another Vessel, an Ultra Ball. But here, we'll see what Makani decides to do on this turn, just taking a bit of water. Hydrate. Hydration is really important. These tournaments are really stressful on your stamina. 2 days of lots of Pokemon, lots of thinking, especially with Gardevoir, one of the more complex decks in the format. And here, in a slightly unfavored matchup, really just evaluating all of the options.
Looks like there is just some sort of a discrepancy or judge call we were just checking with, it seems, but it looks like we are back to resuming the pace here. We're actually going to see the energy committed to Gardevoir EX. Very interesting. Is this a spot here for Makani where he wants to start to slow things down? Potentially, it will be the Iono. So maybe there was no way to discard that energy in the hand, or at least not choosing to. We'll see 4 cards drawn for Makani. 6 for Cerys. This Roaring Scream is kicking a KO on the Tatsugiri, so that is a possibility.
Yeah,
with Monkey Dory already set up, just such a huge advantage still in Makani's core. And yeah, it's just going to be the Roaring Scream, pre-attaching the energy to the Gardevoir, potentially taking a bit of an insight into a counter catcher possibly KOing it and just wanting those energy in the discard pile for future turns.
And Cerys having the Tatsugiri in the active for so many turns has built up a ton of supporters in the hand. So with that Iono, putting those to the bottom of the deck and knocking out that Tatsugiri is really going to hinder Cerys' ability to continue the game while drawing cards. As we say time and time again, Grimsnarl has no engine. It's relying on those supporter cards and the punk up ability to try and stabilize.
So see another Monkey Dory brought to the hand thanks to Pokepad. But these Adrenabrain abilities, we really see Gardevoir do its best job to just not let Grimsnarl take advantage of this ability. There may be a potential for no Adrenabrains on Cerys' side to even exist. We'll see the punk up. It will accelerate energy onto Grimsnarl EX. So finally here, Piper, Cerys will be able to fire off a Shadow Ball this turn.
And Cerys, considering getting some extra energy, thinning out that deck, the Pokepad thin the deck, this punk up thin the deck of so many energies, which, as mentioned, these Monkey Doors aren't really doing much, so you don't need them like in a lot of other matchups. So just getting them into play, thinning, because I don't think I saw a supporter card in there. Prepping for the future turns.
If there's a Technical Machine Devolution, that's not going to do much. Monkey Dory will come down, and yeah, it's just going to be the retreat. And we're actually going to see Corkscrew Punch get in there, take a KO onto this Screamtail. But now all of a sudden here, Makani's going to be able to go down to 2 prize cards. Cerys only taking 1. And there's going to now be 4 energy potentially in the discard pile at the end of this turn.
This Morgrem being in the active with the 2 energies and Cerys already being down a Night Stretcher and Super Odd means Makani is happy to take this knockout, putting himself at 2 prize cards with that Grimsnarl on the bench for the last 2. A lot of resources will be down for Cerys. We'll see. Makani drew his secret box off the prizes last turn, so has basically every option available to him.
Just double checking to see if there's enough cards to burn from the hand. Could burn everything but Super Rod Rare Candy, and if there's enough things to search out like stadiums and tool cards, could actually grab an Ultra Ball here to just guarantee that Rare Candy Gardevoir as well.
And this Artisan with the Super Rod can put the second Gardevoir back into the deck, the Screamtail back in the deck. The Artisan will get the Screamtail back out if that's the attack that Makani wants to use to knock out this Morgrem, as it seems to be one of the more efficient ways. Could also use the Mega Diancie, as that is not in range of getting knocked out by the Grimsnarl. We'll see what Makani goes for. Here's the Super Rod.
So Monkey Dory, Screamtail, Gardevoir EX all coming back into the deck, and there is the Ultra Ball. And we'll see with that Rare Candy, it just feels like Gardevoir number 2 is going to come down into play. Usually, got to be careful about putting these Dark Weak Pokemon in play. Mew EX, Gardevoir, and now another Gardevoir EX is there, but just such a huge prize lead for Makani. He's going to go to a 3 prize card lead at the end of this turn.
Makani understands here that he's just so far ahead that getting the second Gardevoir into play, especially with the second Curlia prize and already down a Rare Candy, is just super important so that he doesn't get a bad Iono hand and is unable to respond to a Grimsnarl attack and lose this game. Finds the Lilies off that secret box, reset the hand, 6 new cards.
Yeah, hasn't even used that Artisan, so that does feel like because that Artisan was not used before Lily, that maybe it is that Mega Diancie that wants to be found here off of these 6 cards.
With the Artisan in play, Makani can always get that Screamtail, so just leaving the option open for that Mega Diancie, not committing before the Lilies. We'll see what he ends up drawing, if he's able to get that Mega Diancie attack. I see an Ultra Ball and some Psychic Energies.
Wow.
Fantastic hand for Makani. The Fezandipity for future turns if something gets knocked out.
Yeah, even just considering using that Flip the Script, so we'll actually just bench out that space. Finds Dark Energy for next turn as well. What Pokemon now is Makani going to want to go in and attack with?
He can attack with everything to knock out this Morgrem with the double Monkey Dory. Looks like going to be using a Miracle Force here, attaching an energy to the Fez, preventing a Counter Catcher plus Itchy Pollen or a Shadow Bullet to just stall a turn with the Fezandipity in the active. Makani here just playing around everything, it feels like. Having the draw on board, the energy on the Fez, the second Gardevoir, even playing around the TM Devolution in the future by attacking with the Gardevoir without the Curlia in play.
Wow. Protecting everything, it seems like, at this spot. Iron Bundle does come into the active spot. As we are almost 20 minutes through this round here, Piper, Cerys tries to navigate some sort of an endgame, but even being on odd prizes means it will be a minimum of 3 turns if she wants to win this game.
Cerys here just not having the board presence or the resources to try to close out this game. Has this one Grimsnarl, but yeah, like you said, 3 turns where Makani is at 2 prizes. If he ever knocks out this Grimsnarl, just wins the game. And with 2 Monkey Dories, it's not that difficult. That's 60 damage already.
Is there a world, Piper, in this spot where you try and just ignore the easy 2 prizes in the active and go after the monkey with the dark energy here?
It feels a little too slow, but maybe at 5 prizes, you need to get to even prizes at some point. So could potentially work out. See what Cerys decides to knock out.
The bench is pretty clogged outside of, you know, the Monkey Dories, and the one Gardevoir needs to be there, but no, it's just going to be the KO. Shadow Bullet, 30 damage onto Fezandipity. And now here for Makani, if he could just use Roaring Scream twice, this game is essentially just locked up. We saw a Night Stretcher in the discard pile on turn 1. We saw a Super Rod just get played, so there's just one way to recover this. But if he can find the Screamtail this turn, which is guaranteed with Artisan, or actually something else here, if there's the way to attack with Mega Diancie, do we see something like Professor Turo? If there's a Turo and a Dark Energy, that would also win the game here.
And I think he might have discarded the Turo off the secret box, not 100% sure. A lot of resources in that last hand, but has to be really careful of giving Cerys damage. But here, Artisaning for the Monkey Dory may have the Turo in hand.
Let's take a look and see. It's just going to finish shuffling up the deck. Now triple Monkey Dory in play, and it actually seems like this is finally a spot where Cerys is going to get to use these Adrenabrain abilities on this turn.
Yeah, but at the same time, Makani could just Mind Bend and put it all on a coin flip. could also just be content waiting a turn.
Yeah, this has actually opened an opportunity. If something were to happen in terms of damage counters, if Gardevoir EX goes down this turn with a boss's orders and a head slip, this game is actually over here, Piper, because of triple Monkey Dory. If there's another Dark Energy, this game is completely flipped upside down just on this turn.
Maybe bringing in the question, should Makani have copied Shadow Bullet with Genome Hacking and 3 Monkey Dories to knock out one of Cerys' Monkey Dories and prevented the triple Trying to Brain? Here, Makani just maybe being careful with his damage can make it so Cerys can't move enough damage, but I think...
If Makani wants to, he can actually KO the Impidimp this turn on the bench and just leave 60 damage here. So Makani will actually take the proactive play, takes the KO on the bench Pokemon. The only downside is being bench locked in this spot, but it will just be the Mind Bend for 60. So as things stand right now, Cerys cannot win the game this turn. She can, however, put on a lot of disruption if she flips heads and can KO this bench Gardevoir EX.
But it seems like Makani just has the game on board. 3 Monkey Dories, 90 damage on board, and this Genome Hacking to copy Shadow Bullet can knock out one of those bench Monkey Dories. And if Cerys knocks out the Mew, has Artisan for Screamtail to knock anything out off the bench.
Wow, almost a checkmate here set up for Makani. We don't see Mew EX get involved often, but this is a card that I know you can speak for, Piper, really allows you to make some creative plays with Gardevoir EX.
Sometimes it bails you out in the early game, giving you a couple extra cards. Sometimes you use it against Dragapult, wipe their board, but a lot of options for this Mew. You can use it against every deck and just turn their own attacks against them. Here, Marnie's Grimsnarl gives a lot of spread damage, an extra 30 damage to that Monkey Dory on the bench with the 3 Adrenabrains. Would be a knockout, so we'll see what Cerys decides to knock out, what supporter she uses, likely trying to Iono, but I don't know if I see one in the hand.
Yeah, it just feels like no matter what Pokemon you KO, it's pretty much just locked up and guaranteed. I guess you can bump the Stadium with a Spike Myth, play Iono, and hope your opponent doesn't have Screamtail. That may just be the best case, but you're still going to need to flip Heads Off Confusion for all of that to work.
Yeah, Monkey Dory is absurd, throwing the damage across the board and the confusion, but here Cerys just picks it up, understanding that the game is too far gone, and heads to game 2, hoping for a bit better of a start, not having that secret box early, forcing her to go into the Tatsugiri, giving Makani items turn after turn. Gave him a lot of advantage, just use the Roaring Scream from Screamtail and take away those key pieces.
Seemed like there was some potential to possibly come back in that game. Want to bring Chip in to talk a little bit about how things played out from this first game here. Chip, I mean, it seemed like there were some opportunities for comebacks, but just this early secret box being prized, the huge difference maker right away.
Yeah, that was a big deal for sure. And not only the secret box, but also the rare candy, the one of as well, and Cerys' list being in the prize cards really limited her potential here. This opening turn, deciding between the Tatsugiri and the Badoo. She knew Makani didn't do that much, had to go for the Mew. Honestly, she finds herself in a pretty tough spot, and in this matchup, if you fall behind as the Grimsnarl player, it feels really, really difficult to come back. So she does lean into the Tatsugiri, does get herself a supporter, but I do have to wonder, should she have relied on the Badoo to try to slow Makani down just a little?
Thanks so much, Chip. Totally understand, both sides of the argument. You got nothing going on in your hand, but your opponent's not doing much, and that back and forth is a very interesting dynamic. We're already getting into things here, so let's go ahead and throw it down to the action, see what's going on. It looks like just an attached pass here from Makani as Cerys does start Snow Run. We've talked a little bit about Frostlass in this matchup, and with the slow start on Makani's side, could see Frostlass come into play and have a little bit of value here in the second game.
If Cerys is able to establish a Monkey Dory on her first turn, and Makani with such a weak board, the Frostlass could really prove to be advantageous for Cerys. Extra Monkey Dories and the damage to use them, and opens the secret box. Grimsnarl feels like they always have that secret box or Poffin in their opening hand so often. And here just off to the races with such a strong start, getting another Spike Myth replacement. You see that resource management secret box discards a card, but also finds you Spike Myths, so you can discard one to replace it and not have to worry about discarding something more important. And looking at the prizes, nothing too crazy. That Technical Machine Devolution can come up sometimes, but it's not something you rely on the matchup, and is pretty easy to find at the bottom of those prize cards.
Complete 180 flip here on this first turn, almost picture perfect. We'll see the Night Stretcher be used as well. It will bring the Impidimp back, and this is pretty much as you write it up. We haven't even seen a supporter card played yet. Okay, Cerys, I see you.
Cerys here looking for the Dark Energy for the Monkey Dory, potentially a Frostlass for next turn, but he's going to end the turn with Itchy Pollen. We talked about it last game, how Makani going first, not having the ability to play items, or supporters turn 1, and then items on the next turns means his board can be really weak, not able to find evolutions for the Ralts, Monkey Dories with Dark Energies, kind of has to choose one of the two. Cerys here still has the Spike move for next turn.
So playing that early just to grab this Impidimp out and actually grabbing Grimsnarl to threaten that rare candy on the following turn. Cerys having access to a bunch of resources. Monkey Dory number 2 comes down. Badu comes into the active spot, and it is getting itchy in here, Piper. 10 damage, no items. What can Makani find? Does have the Technical Machine evolution off of what appears to be from the top of the deck. Is there anything else to go along? It's just going to be the Iono. So under item lock, is there a way to find another basic Pokemon? One to evolve? Does not. And with just the Kirlia here, may have to actually retreat out of this Ralts in order to avoid danger of this being KO'd.
At the same time, Makani's hand is so weak. May just call sign, and yep, here we see the call sign, probably getting Gardevoir, maybe even that Mew EX again. But also, oh, just prize checking here, sorting the deck. One of the easiest ways to prize check in the Pokemon TCG. And looking at Makani's prizes, a lot of energies, nothing too bad.
If this Kirlia falls, the other Kirlia being prized could be a big deal. The Gardevoir at the top of the prizes, also annoying under Itchy Pollen to find one of those, but can just search it out of the deck right now. And it really does feel like the scale of this game is going to tip heavily in Cerys' favor if she can find rare candy on this turn.
Rare candy to get the Grimsnarl to play, knock out this Kirlia, take away Makani's only real threat. Makani understanding that, getting the Pheasantipity in case that happens, and a Ralts to replace it. But may just lose too much advantage. Almost a complete reversal of the last game where Cerys was only able to have that one Morgrem that got knocked out. Makani only has this one Kirlia that could get knocked out, but Cerys here with a Lilies, not guaranteed that rare candy, but has 8 cards to try and find it.
Yeah, it was difficult with 2 of those Arvid being in the prize card, so a bit of a sigh of relief for now for Makani. You know, it's never over till it's over. We've seen plenty of 1-0s be drawn early in this game, and that Spike Myth has not been used yet, so here we go. Big 8 cards. Do we see that rare candy? We find it! Wow! What a rip off the top 8 here for Cerys, and that's going to mean Kirlia goes down this turn.
Makani here with no Ralts, just wasn't able to find that extra basic off the Iono with Itchy Pollen. Now has to decide, do we continue playing this game or maybe look to a game 3 scenario with only 25 minutes left?
Wow.
This is a win it into asymmetrical cut. Really important match. See what Makani opts to do.
And can even go in with the corkscrew punch this turn if she so chooses to, to take a KO onto this Kirlia since it is weak to dark. That way you play around the confusion potential down the line, and it's going to be that exact line. Corkscrew punch getting in there. Kirlia falls. How can Makani come back from this spot?
Well, he has to rely on this Pheasantipity he searched last turn, not having any support in this hand besides Professor Turo scenario. Has a Nest Ball here to get a Ralts, searched out a Ralts last turn, so slowly rebuilding that board, but really relying on that Pheasantipity 3 cards to try to get him out of this situation.
And even burn that Technical Machine evolution on the previous turn, and with the Kirlia being prized, it's just going to be so hard to get Gardevoir EX into play. It's going to really have to be relying on one of those 2 rare candy cards.
Connie here really struggling to find a board presence. Cerys with a Morgrem, a Grimsnarl, and a Monkey Dory powered up. This Snow Run potentially getting involved into and becoming a Frostlass at some point. Makani finds an Iono though, so not out of it yet.
Finds an Iono. There's another Ralts in the hand. We'll have to see how risky Makani wants to play with this board. It is going to be the second Ralts being benched. Counter catcher Monkey Dory just to try and buy some time here.
Cerys does have a lot of energies in play, 5 in play, and that Air Balloon already committed, so may not be able to move this Monkey Dory as easily as she would like.
Does find Earthen Vessel and a Psychic Energy, so can start to put some energy in the discard pile and find some for future turns. But once again, it feels like the tempo is in Cerys' court. If she can find a way to move Monkey Dory and continue to apply pressure and take some prize cards.
Makani here has a really strong board from the Screamtail Kirlia board last turn, but is it enough? Cerys has the Dark Energy to move the Monkey Dory, deciding if she wants to remove this Artisan for her last Spike Myth. Discarded 1 on the first turn off the Secret Box, and Makani just bumped the second one with the Artisan. Here, just debating it.
Yeah, it would probably mean evolving this Morgrem into Grimsnarl, since you would really limit the ways you can search it out. I don't think there's any Ultra Ball in this list, and that's really the only way to get Grimsnarl EX into play.
A couple different supporters. I think I see Lily's Determination and an Arven. So we'll see what Cerys opts to do.
Will be the Spike Myth coming down. will be Lily being played first. So we'll get to see 6 additional cards from the deck. We have been seeing 2 different sides of the narrative here in Game 1 and Game 2.
Cerys looking for boss's orders for the future turns. Maybe a Frostlass now. Just Makani does have a Monkey Dory though, so have to be a little careful with giving him that damage. There's a boss's orders for next turn and a Pokepad to either thin out of the deck or maybe get the Frostlass involved this turn. We'll see what Cerys opts to go for. Eyeing up the Frostlass at the front of the deck, evolves it immediately.
So this Monkey Dory will lose its Dark Energy from retreating, which does mean that Makani will potentially have the Monkey Dory advantage going into this next turn. That is really the biggest saving grace right now, and it's actually going to be an Itchy Pollen here just to prevent Gardevoir EX from coming into play, strengthened by the fact that Cerys is holding on to one of those Boss's Orders supporter cards.
Knocking out the Screamtail is good since it forces a Night Stretcher later, but Makani has a second Dark. The big idea of this Itchy Pollen was to try to stop Makani from finding another Dark Energy, but he just immediately has it and an Iono to disrupt that boss to the bottom of the deck. So maybe playing it a bit more passive with this Itchy Pollen could bite Cerys and Makani here, starting to reestablish the board, but we know that second Curly is prized. 1 is in the discard.
Cerys finds another Boss's Orders off that Iono, and that's going to change a huge tempo depending on what Pokemon she wants to chase after on the bench. And the Dark Energy too, wow! Huge finds here from this Iono.
Cerys will be able to knock out both Ralts this turn using 2 Adrenabrains, putting 40 on 1 Ralts. Boss's Orders up another Ralts, and use Shadow Bullet.
Wow.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be exactly that play. Double Ralts KO. Cerys will go down to 3 prize cards, and sure, while Monkey Dories are in play for Makani, he's got nothing else to support this.
He can Mind Bend, but Cerys here has 2 Grimsnarls in play, can even accelerate some extra energies, or has the threat of a second Grimsnarl, can accelerate extra energies to retreat through the confusion and not even have to risk the flip. But even if she wants to risk the flip, Makani has all 3 Ralts in the discard pile, I believe.
Yeah, and remember, this damage is still building up on the board passively thanks to Frostlass, so even if you're not doing much, you're still slowly building up pressure on Monkey Dories on your opponent's side.
Cerys does have to watch out for that Technical Machine Devolution from Makani. I don't know if she knows that he has it, but using that Wonder Candy already, has to consider evolving this Morgrem soon as this Grimsnarl takes more and more damage. Makani could even go for it this turn to try and buy some time and alleviate some pressure.
It could play something like the Night Stretcher to bring back one of these Ralts. Instead, it is going to be the Secret Box for the time being, so it doesn't necessarily shut out the option of the Technical Machine Devolution. We'll have to see if Makani wants to play this powerful Aspec this turn. It will be the choice. Ultra Ball, Psychic Energy, and Technical Machine Evolution hitting the discard pile. And what will be the choices here from the trainer cards? The Secret Box just allows these plays to be stringed together very easily. Bravery Charm, actually, as well as the Counter Catcher, so continuing to try and maybe go after some Pokemon here.
Could knock out the Morgrem with a Mind Bend and a couple of Adrenabrains. Could just Mind Bend the active, but getting that Iono for the next turn really big. I believe Makani has played 2 already, so one of the advantages of Gardevoir is you just slowly pick apart your opponent's board while going Iono, 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 but Makani with only 2 left, a little difficult to find them.
So we'll see double Ralts hit the board again. Makani doing his best to make sure Gardevoir EX at least comes up next turn. And now the big question for me, Piper, is what is the plan with this Counter Catcher that was grabbed?
Could maybe knock out the Morgrem, like I mentioned, the Frostlass, if that's a little scary, or even one of these Monkey Dories can get knocked out from the extra damage.
You would essentially just be trading Monkey for Monkey, which doesn't feel that great in this spot, as you're pretty behind on the prizes here. It's now a 3-prize deficit on the other end, so we're actually just going to see the Morgrem get chased after. There's the Adrenabrain number 1. Pheasantipity loses its 3 damage counters, potentially. It's actually going to keep those 30 damage. We'll put 4 onto this Morgrem, Mind Bend for the KO, so Makani finally takes that first prize card, but these Pokemon will tick up. Cerys, has the Monkey Dory even lead here, and will take it actually after this turn, especially if Cerys can find yet another Monkey Dory on this turn. Did top deck Super Rod for the turn, and that Artisan is in play now, so if Cerys can just find one of those 2 Dark Energy that were discarded, it would allow her to take another 2 prize cards this turn.
And those 2 prize cards could be on both of Makani's Monkey Dories.
Yeah.
And with just 2 Ralts left, Makani has to find Rare Candy Gardevoir, and no Monkey Dories on board. What will he even be able to do if Cerys is able to find that play?
Yeah, the only advantage here is that Grimsnarl has been evolved via rare candy. So if you can use that devolution on the following turn, you would guaranteed buy yourself a turn from Shadow Bullet.
It's going to be hard to do without any Monkey Dories to add damage. Cerys here with potentially 3 Monkey Dories can heal all of this damage off the Grimsnarl and get super far ahead.
Just going to potentially be only the 2 dark energies, so it seems here that Cerys is fully investing into this one Grimsnarl to get her across the finish line.
Potentially leaving a dark energy in the discard for Night Stretcher if she has one still. But with a full bench, you don't really have the ability to get another impotent down and evolve that up in the time allowed, especially with that rare candy gone already.
Yeah, so
here's
we'll
an
see
Arven.
the Arven, and that can actually grab the Night Stretcher if she so chooses to get this guaranteed attachment, and that is going to be the play. So Cerys will go down to just 1 prize card here. The big question, though, can this Grimsnarl get it done, or will something like Devolution or Mind Bend throw a wrench in Cerys' plans?
Even if this Grimsnarl goes down, this Budew now has a Bravery Charm, so it's not prone to an Adrenabrain. And with triple Monkey Dory, Cerys only going to 1 prize potentially this turn.
Yeah, Cerys can actually do this with a Badoo's Itchy Pollen and actually prevent Gardevoir EX from guaranteed coming into play this turn. Is that the better route here?
I think it seems really strong. You're taking away a Monkey Dory. You're preventing a Gardevoir EX from coming into play. And Item Lock is just so powerful. We see so many decks playing it. Gardevoir has Frillish. So many different decks have Budew. Grimsnarl has even been going to 2 Budew.
Yeah, it's so close. There's 3 Adrenabrains. If there was just 1 more damage counter on the board here for Cerys, could actually use 9 damage counters from her side to Makani's side and KO this, but is just going to be short. So this Monkey Dory will go to 80 damage on it after this turn. Actually going to decide to go for the Shadow Bolt, so just wants to remove both Monkey Dory. Okay with Gardevoir coming into play, and Cerys goes down to just 1 prize card remaining in game 2, 15 minutes left on the clock.
And Makani here, just having those 2 Ralts, no more Monkey Dories, no Curlias, needing to find Rare Candy, Gardevoir, and some combination of cards just to stay in the game, but
yeah,
not even threatening.
And as it stands, you know, if both of these Pokemon on the bench don't evolve, even with the Bravery Charm, Triple Monkey just takes the KO and wins the game on the following turn for Cerys.
Connie here, Bravery Charming that Screamtail, as you noted, both could get knocked out if there's no evolutions. With a Curlia, could prevent that play.
It's just tough, right? The Curly is in the prize cards as well, so would have to burn one of those recovery cards, and Makani cannot get it done. Picks the cards up. Opposite narratives in both games. We're going to a game number 3 here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, both players have struggled in a game, and then the kind of gets back into it, but both players ending up losing to the one who takes the advantage early. So we'll see how this game 3 goes. It's going to be Makani's first chance to go second if he chooses, which Gardevoir typically wants. We saw both those games, Cerys trying to item lock and capitalize on slightly weaker starts.
Big advantage, as you mentioned, that Budew really providing value here in this second game as we'll look back on how things played out. It was just this perfect turn 1. Was able to secret box raw from the hand without having any assistance and just had the perfect setup. Found the rare candy on turn 2, and it was just too much pressure. Makani was not able to get Gardevoir EX into play until that last turn where he just conceded and picked up his cards.
Makani not really able to keep his board as strong as he'd like. Both Ralts being knocked out one turn, and then both Monkey Dories being knocked out meant that couldn't put anything together on that last turn and just ended up conceding that game pretty shortly after. Had the Candy Gardevoir, but just no good attacker to use.
We're getting right into things, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go, game number 3. The Tatsugiri start here for Cerys, and the Buddy Poffin as good as it gets here for going first.
It gets better. I saw the secret box in Cerys' hand yet again.
My.
An amazing start if she wants to play it. Could also hold it for later. We saw how big Arven for secret box can be. Looking at the prizes though, 2 Monkey Dories and 2 Darks could make it a little awkward to establish those. But at the same time, we do see a lot of games where Grimsnarl versus Gardevoir doesn't have the damage to move with those Monkey Dories.
And lots of recovery as well for Monkey Dory, so it should be okay here for Cerys. Can start things off with this attract customers as well to find a supporter card, top 6 cards of the deck. Any friends there? Looks like there is an Arven, as well as an Iono. The Arven will be the selection, and just immediately gonna ditch it from the hand for Secret Box. Now just considering if this last card is gonna be this Iron Bundle or Spike Myth, and the Iron Bundle will be the one to hit the discard pile.
Cerys here, having a Grimsnarl and Spike Myth in hand, has a lot of options, could get the rare candy for next turn and the Lily's Determination, try and get this game over with as quickly as possible. Only 11 minutes remaining. This matchup can take a lot of time sometimes, where both players are just taking one prize after one prize knockout. Gets a Pokepad.
Stadium being grabbed. Just as fear of this hitting the bottom of the deck thanks to an Iono, it seems. So we're just confirming everything has happened here. We'll see the Pokepad get played, it feels like. That can grab a second Impidimp. So we're actually just going to see the Stadium played from the hand. And that Spikemouth will grab the Impidimp, and then I'm sure we'll see that Pokepad get played for something this turn. Something like a Monkey Dory feels more than right. Is there a Dark Energy in the hand as well? There could be. I can't quite tell here.
Grabbing Monkey Dory here. Discarding Snort off the Secret Box means we're probably not going to see Frostlass this game. Just Pokepadding, getting a Monkey Dory ready. Bravery Charm on the Budu. Really strong to prevent an Adrenabrain from knocking it out at any point.
No energy, but the rest of the hand super solid. Artisan gets slammed down right away here for Makani.
I'm looking at Makani's hand. I think I saw Earthen Vessel and Ultra Ball, but I don't know if I saw a supporter, so we may see something like that Mew EX restart coming into play to try to bail him out. Looking at the prizes, I think he's only playing one copy of the Bravery Charm. Could be pretty big, preventing the Screamtail from taking big knockouts and also preventing you from upping the HP on some of those frail basics.
It's actually going to be the Ultra Ball discarded from this Earthen Vessel. So what can Makani put together this turn? We'll see double energy put to hand. There's the Darkness energy. And actually nothing else. It's just going to be a pass over of the turn here. Can Cerys find a way to KO this Pokemon top deck rare candy? Okay, Cerys, that card is coming in clutch whenever you need it.
Yeah, I mean, that one rare candy in the deck seems to just find its way to the hand every time it's needed. Cerys here having the Secret Box and Buddy Buddy Pop in turn 1, and now the rare candy turn 2. Just needs to move this Tatsugiri into the Grimsnarl, and it's just going to be so far ahead already.
Yeah, already has the Grimsnarl in hand. Actually going to use this Tatsugiri's first. Finds boss's orders. Is there a way to get an energy or an air balloon in the hand? No, just going to fail it.
Already had a boss's orders, maybe looking for an R-Event to get that air balloon to move that Tatsugiri guaranteed, but now going to have to hope to find it off the Liz Determination. Using Punk Up will take 2 energies out of the deck, but can also use a Spikemouth to thin a Morgrim out of the deck.
It's interesting. There's maybe a world where Cerys is set on using Itchy Paw on this turn, followed up by a boss's orders, but no. We'll see Rare Candy be played. Grimsnarl accelerates those energies. Spikemouth Gym used to find Morgrim, and this is going to be a big 8 cards here for Cerys to try and find a way for Tatsugiri to move out of the active spot. Don't let it be a fish out of water.
With only 10 minutes remaining, going for this more aggressive play means Cerys will hopefully have time to complete this game. We saw yesterday with Henry Chow playing this passive Frillish line against Rowan, was unable to close out the game in time, even though he was in such a dominant spot. But no energy, no air balloon.
Wow, a huge break for Makani. No way for Tatsugiri to move out of the active spot, and it will be a turn bot here for Makani.
But Cerys does have a boss's orders for the next turn, so she can find a Dark Energy or an air balloon. But Makani here has his second Artisan to bump the Spikemouth again. Getting another Ralts.
Comes down. There's a Curlia in the hand as well as an Ultra Ball for the following turn and Fezidipity, so it seems that Makani is just going to try and preserve this Monkey Dory, play a bit of Ring Around the Rosie, and see what Cerys can put together. And it was the next card. Absolutely heartbreaking for Cerys.
Would have loved to see it last turn, but has the boss's orders in hand this turn, so not upset to see it this turn either. Fails this attract customers, but has a really strong play lined up this turn, knocking out this Curlia, and then Makani is going to be living off this Fezandipity in the hand. Could have maybe been a bit more aggressive with the Ultra Ball for the Mew EX and restart, but just relying on the flip the script. Finally found the energy boss of the Curlia.
And here we go. It's playing out just as you mentioned, Piper. Shadow Bullet will take the KO, 30 damage on one of these Pokemon, and it will be off of Fezandipity's back. It feels like something we say time and time again. Flip the script. We'll need to find Makani a supporter card, a rare candy, something in this spot. There's the Mew EX, and Makani will start things out slow. Use this Artisan, find another Ralts for a bit of safety and protection, but it's still going to be flip the script, now or never, do or die.
And Makani has a few things to consider. If he uses Mind Bend, gives Cerys damage to potentially get another Grimsnarl into play, a Monkey Dory, and if he is unable to evolve this Ralts up or find a Bravery Charm, could get knocked out later, but has the Adrenaline to heal it a bit. Find Secret Box
and Ultra Ball in the hand here.
you have
But
enough cards?
just going to play this Lily. Just no time to think about Secret Box. I don't think there was enough cards to guarantee Rare Candy Gardevoir in this spot.
With both stadiums down, Secret Box and Ultra Ball, you have to discard so many cards. Probably not enough to be able to do that and play your supporter for turn. So just hoping to find the Secret Box again off this Lilies. Finds a Curlia. No rare candy.
Can evolve this up to protect it. But with this damage being moved back into play, there's actually no way to clear out both Pokemon, but it's still going to be a big mind bend. We may finally be in Confusion City here, Piper.
And both players playing really quickly here. Cerys grabbing this Arven to potentially get the Air Balloon out.
Yeah.
Maybe retreating back into the Budew or has another Grimsnarl.
Night Stretcher, that would guarantee the dark energy for a for an Adrenabrain. Is there another Grimsnarl in the hand? There is. Doesn't even need the stadium. Big time find for Cerys here.
A lot of damage going to be put onto Makani's board, and this only Monkey Dory with a dark energy is going to get knocked out. Cerys not even losing the energies off this active Grimsnarl with the Air Balloon. When you don't have to commit that Air Balloon early, it can be really useful for these confusion scenarios. We'll see where Cerys decides to move this damage, starting to put pressure on that Ralts, play for finding another boss's orders later and knocking out Gardevoir and the Ralts, taking away all of Makani's options in the future.
Lots of cards needing to be moved. It's tough when Grimsnarl is just such a big boy. There it goes. Shadow Bullet, KO on Monkey Dory. Ralts now at 6 damage counters on it. Cerys has taken the first 2 prizes, but Makani can finally get Gardevoir EX into play, which is a big thing that was missing from the second game.
And both players playing so quickly. They understand the importance of this game, a win it into top cut. Really just trying to complete the set in the 50 minutes plus 3 turns.
And we're at 5 minutes remaining. It's going to be very difficult, so we'll try and keep you as up to date with the action as possible. These players are going to be flying through their actions these next few turns.
Connie here getting that Gardevoir EX ready, has the Curly to evolve, needs to remove some of the damage for this Ralts or evolve it up and find a good attacker this turn. Has a counter catcher, could be strong, a lot of energies in play, and the Air Balloon committed already.
It's going to be the Grimsnarl with the Air Balloon on it yet again.
Maybe looking for a Mega Diancie attack with one Adrenabrain.
Yeah.
It will get knocked out. Here, just making sure support hasn't been played yet. Oh.
Uh-oh.
The deck needed to be cut.
Uh-oh. Hold on.
Yeah, looks like Makani was speeding through a little bit and forgot to offer the deck to be cut and put the cards to the bottom of the deck.
Went on the top of the deck instead,
on top?
potentially, yeah. I think we are confirming exactly what happened here. Oh, it looks like no offer to cut before the Iona was played. Oh, no. All right, so we'll have to make sure everything is getting cards off the bottom of the deck. Okay, so it looks like we are able to revert this situation. Just the deck was shuffled and then shortcut. This is kind of just how things play out. So we'll make sure that the appropriate time extension is given and all is reverted. Sometimes these situations can get a bit stressful when the time is down to, especially under 5 minutes remaining. So the deck will be reshuffled. It will be offered to be cut. The Iona will be played. And like you mentioned, Piper, if there's a Dark Energy and a Diancie off of these 6 cards, it would allow Makani to take a KO with that Mega Diancie. Can we find it?
Secret Box and Dark Energy, and still has flipped the script. Finds the Mega Diancie and Dark Energy anyway. Gets to keep the Secret Box if he wants, or can use it to get a Bravery Charm, although I think it's prized, but could find a Curlia potentially to evolve this Ralts and protect it.
So we'll see the Iona on both sides. There is the Earthen Vessel, so more Psychic Energy hitting the discard pile. That's the question, though, here for Makani. Can he find a way to evolve Ralts?
And after such a slow start, Makani has got himself back into this game with this Mega Diancie attack. 240 damage plus 30 from the Adrenabrain, and the 60 already on the Grimsnarl from the Mind Bend last turn. Gets knocked out, and both players now even on prize cards. Cerys down a whole Grimsnarl line with 2 energies and that Air Balloon.
Yeah, and leaving no damage on the board, so this Ralts is actually completely safe this turn from being KO'd.
Amazing turn from Makani. It's crazy to see such a powerful turn after what we had seen earlier, just what seemed like draw, attach, pass, draw, evolve, pass. But Cerys here finds the boss's orders.
Yeah, and Makani actually didn't do something I expected him to do, which is to prepare extra energy onto this Mega Diancie in case Gardevoir EX gets knocked out in this spot. Now with this boss's orders being found, if Cerys decides to go after Gardevoir, Makani will have to find another rare candy in order to take this KO and put more energies into play.
And this is Cerys' second boss. She is playing 3, though, so has 1 more later. Makani does have that secret box, though, in hand that we saw, so will likely be able to put together the Gardevoir. But Cerys now going to 2 prizes. Has Technical Machine Devolution as a play with so much damage on this Ralts.
Yeah,
See what Makani opts to attack with this turn, promoting the Monkey Dory. Not sure if we'll see a Mind Bend this turn, but could be a possibility. Already has Gardevoir EX in hand, it looks like, and the secret box. So looking to use the secret box, get the rare candy, probably an Iono to disrupt Cerys' hand down to 2 cards.
Yeah, there's still 4 prize cards remaining here for Makani, so he's got to figure out how to get through these next couple of Pokemon. It will be Rare Candy, Technical Machine Evolution, and the Iono. So like you mentioned, reestablishing Gardevoir EX, disrupting, and potentially getting in there with another Mind Bend flip can confuse this Pokemon and force potential coin flips out here on Cerys' side.
Yeah, and Makani here getting the Technical Machine Evolution, maybe just some fodder for an Ultra Ball or Earthen Vessel, or just thinking out of the deck for after this Iono. Has a Nest Ball, getting another Monkey Dory. He did Earthen Vessel for a Dark Energy last turn. And now, still has Flip the Script active.
Yeah, burning everything. Gonna use this Iono first. Shuffle the deck up. We'll make sure everything is randomized. Cerys getting just 2 cards left. And potential confusion. That's the big question here, Piper. What attack do you go for in this spot?
Cerys finds the boss's orders, and Makani goes for that Mega DNC attack. Cerys will win the game, but could also just Mind Bend, try to put it on a coin flip on top of that all. But with the Spike Myth in play and this Impidimp on the bench, Cerys may be able to put together another Grimsnarl. So Makani may be looking for some type of...
It looks like it is going to be the Mind Bend. So Mind Bend here, confusing this Grimsnarl. What are the 3 cards? Finds Night Stretcher and the Lily's Determination. Is going to search the deck first with the Spike Myth, see if there's anything available.
Makani here could also be setting up for a Technical Machine Devolution play. I mean, Cerys is down that 1 rare candy. There's 120 damage on this active Grimsnarl.
And I believe Cerys didn't actually use the Spike Myth when putting it into play the previous turn. Could have actually grabbed this Morgrim on that previous turn.
I think bench the Impidimp last turn instead.
Bench the Impidimp last turn. Okay, well, regardless, Morgrim's going to come down into play. Night Stretcher and Lily being played. So a bit of a sigh of relief here for Makani. The question now for Cerys becomes, what is your play if you're going to just retreat out this Grimsnarl? Do you Itchy Pollen? Do you take the coin flip? What do you go for?
I may need to take the coin flip with that Air Balloon already down and a couple recovery cards. Treating this Grimsnarl feels really puts a lot of pressure on the energies, and that's something Guardy loves to do against Grimsnarl. This confusion, really, we haven't seen it happen much, but in this game, it's really taken the center stage, forcing that Air Balloon early. Here's a coin flip.
Big coin flip. Is it a heads?
Tails.
No! It's a tails. This Grimsnarl takes 3 damage counters. If Makani can find another Monkey Dory plus Dark Energy, he can actually Devolution and KO both of these Grimsnarls.
Yeah, and Cerys here forgot to use the Adrenabrains to heal this Grimsnarl, allowing this play to happen. Otherwise, the Grimsnarl would have been at 90 and couldn't have been Devolutioned to knock out both the Morgrim and the Impidimp that way.
Let's see if this play is here. He's going to search through the deck for an S-Ball, but Makani... does he have all the pieces available?
I see the Dark Energy in hand. I don't see the Monkey Dory in the prize cards.
There's a Night Stretcher in hand. That would guarantee it here. Doesn't even need the Nest Ball. Can fail this Nest Ball off the hand. And then a Monkey Dory plus Dark. Is there enough Psychic Energy? I believe there is. Oh, it's in the deck. Doesn't even need it. It's not in the discard pile. It's in the deck for Makani. He needs to put all these pieces together. Can move 3 off the Diancie, 2 off the active, and then another 3 off of one of these Pokemon here. And then Devolution will wipe the entire board and leave Cerys with nothing but supporting friends and a supporting cast.
And Makani here, so much damage on the board, can retreat this energy, kind of shuffle around where the damage is, going into that DNC, being a little bit safe of the Blood Moon Ursaluna. We know that Cerys doesn't have it, but it is something a lot of Grimsnarlists play.
Wow. And saving this card, not showing the Devolution at any point during the set, may have completely caught Cerys off guard. We're going to see a full Devolution into effect as time has actually been called here, though. Can Makani now not only wipe out this board, but can he take 2 prize cards here in this final turn?
With this Budew and Tatsugiri on board and 3 Monkey Dories for Makani, would be able to knock one of those out and then use Miracle Force or DNC to knock out that last prize card.
Wow.
So there is a line for Makani to win here. After such a weak start, he's able to take it back with that Technical Machine, Devolution, a tech we've seen come in and out of Gardevoir. And here, taking away all of the Marnie's Pokemon from Cerys' board, what will she be able to do to respond?
This game has been completely back and forth. What looked like a scrap fest for Makani has completely shifted into an incredible board state. Triple Monkey Dory, the Diancie fully powered up, and now with just one turn remaining for him, can he find a way to close things out? And now it becomes the question here for Cerys, can she not lose this second game here, this third game rather?
Makani here, even playing around Cerys using Technical Machine Devolution to get the Gardevoir out of play, having 7 damage in play already to knock out that Tatsugiri, and the Mega Diancie ready to do 240 damage to whatever ends up on the board. Really, Makani just showing how well he's practiced with Gardevoir, playing around everything every game, it feels.
Just feels like there's no line here where Cerys just avoids a Miracle Force. It would have to be a boss's orders stall onto this Pheasantipede and hoping that there's not an energy in play.
And
so here we go, big big Tatsugiri here. There is how many bosses orders in deck? Just one boss.
Played 2 already.
So it's going to need to attract customers into this boss. If there's no bosses orders, there's just game on board here for Makani.
Cerys here finds herself in a really precarious position. Big 6 cards.
Big 6. Do we see the boss's orders? We do. So there's the boss. So this is Cerys' best chance to try and win this game. If there's a Dark Energy, can even use something like Itchy Pollen to try and shut down the ability to bring back Psychic Energies. There's the boss. It's flying to grab this Pheasantipede. Actually going to find the Gardevoir EX instead. And just the pass of the turn. How many energies are in the discard pile here for Makani? That's the question.
Makani here needs enough energies to retreat or Professor Turo scenario to just move this Gardevoir. Has an Earthen Vessel. I don't think that's enough with how slowly he's playing this turn.
There's 2 energy plus an Ultra Ball in the deck. So it can attach an energy and then sort of, spin the wheel here with a Lily's Determination to try and find Ultra Ball, that 1 copy it seems, and that Psychic Energy too.
Then a couple cards like this Bravery Charm, but a lot of cards in deck. Cerys may have found the way to sneak a tie here.
Gardevoir EX, the choice of promotion from boss's orders, slightly better than that Pheasantipede. And here we go, Piper. It's going to be a Lily's Determination. Makani is going to see almost all of the deck. Needs to find that 1 copy of Ultra Ball and the 1 copy of Psychic Energy. If it's not found, then these players are going to draw this 13th Swiss round.
One thing to remember, though, Makani still has his last Psychic Energy. There's 1 in deck, but there's also 1 in the prize cards, and he has the triple Monkey Dory, could knock out the Tatsugiri, so if he just finds the Ultra Ball, could try to find it off the prizes there.
Needs to find Ultra Ball, though, 4. Wow!
2 cards!
Rips it off the 6 cards. Are you kidding me here? Makani comes back in this game and wins Swiss round number 13.
Yeah, finds it off the last 2 cards of that Lily's Determination and has the triple Monkey Dory to knock out the Tatsugiri and then the Mega Diancie to knock out whatever Cerys promotes there.
Wow, are you kidding me here? Makani is going to go through the actions here. Triple Psychic Embrace. It's just going to showcase everything. So this Gardevoir EX was in the active spot. So the Gardevoir EX needs to move. It goes into the Diancie. 7 damage counters are moved off of this board, which was on the board already. And then Mega Diancie can destroy anything in the active spot.
Yeah, here
so we're just going through the motions here. So we Psychic Embrace. The Gardevoir has 2 on it. We move 7 damage counters to the Tatsugiri.
Yeah, Makani here got a little ahead of himself. Looks like the damage might have gotten messed up a bit. Not sure.
Pretty sure there was 3 onto one of these Pokemon.
I think there was 3 on the Diancie.
There should have been 30 damage on the Diancie. I think we may have to rewind the board a little bit. I'm almost certain that was the game, though.
Yeah, I thought the Ultra Ball plus Psychic Energy to move the Gardevoir was all that was left.
I think we need to check how much damage is on the board, because I'm almost certain there was 3 damage counters on this Diancie. The issue becomes, though, that Makani fully popped off and took his headset off. This is absolutely devolving into chaos. We saw the perfect draw here off the 6, and now we're just kind of trying to pick up the pieces, but if everything is reverted correctly, Makani should just have the game on board.
Yeah, with the triple Monkey Dory and the Diancie can take the last 2 prizes on this last turn of the game, or turn 2, Makani's last turn. Cerys would still have 1 more turn, but doesn't have any impotence in play to take any knockouts.
We'll have to reward. So yeah, there were 3 damage counters on the Diancie. So now with this being the case, We'll see Adrenabrain number 1 move 2 counters off Monkey, Adrenabrain number 2 move 2 counters off the Monkey Dory, and Adrenabrain number 3 would knock out Tatsugiri, and that Garland Ray would knock out anything in the active spot. We're just going to get confirmation from the judges that all is correct, all is in order, and that Makani will be able to win this game.
A bit of a pause, but we see the strength of Gardevoir having 3 Monkey Dories in play. Seems to just be an instant win anytime they're able to get it. And yep, here Makani showing the win here, knocking out that Tatsugiri with the Adrenabrains, and then the Garland Ray for 240, taking the last prize and winning the game on his last possible turn. Got a little ahead of himself there, but was able to close it out. After such a weak start, too.
Yeah.
Draw, attach, pass turn 1, draw, evolve into Kirlia. I think attach, retreated into a Ralts, and pass again. Cerys having the rare candy Grimsnarl, but with that one turn to be able to move the Tatsugiri into it. Really back and forth game after 2 pretty one-sided games before it.
What a finish here in this game. Absolutely back and forth game number 3. The narratives completely shifted for both games.